Good evening, and welcome to Soothing Moonlight, your nightly harbor, where the hustle of the day fades into the hush of storytelling. I'm Jasmine Taylor, and it's my pleasure to be with you tonight. As the world outside winds down, we're here to offer you a beacon of tranquility, a soft-spoken journey into the land of dreams. Here at Soothing Moonlight, our goal is simple yet profound: to provide a respite from the whirlwind of daily life, to cradle your thoughts in a lullaby of words, and to gently guide you towards a restful night's sleep. Whether the stars are just peeking out from the velvet night, or the moon is already keeping watch over a silent world, we invite you to join us, to let go, and to find peace in the stories we share. Tonight, we have a special tale for you, one that is as timeless as it is enchanting: Cinderella. But this is not the Cinderella you might remember from childhood. This is a tale reimagined, a narrative woven with threads of moonlight and adorned with the jewels of the night. Our story follows the journey of a young woman whose heart is as vast as the sky, whose spirit is as resilient as the dawn, and whose dreams are as boundless as the sea. You'll walk with Cinderella through the shadows of hardship and into the luminescence of hope. You'll feel the pulse of the palace as it thrums with the anticipation of the royal ball, and you'll waltz under the chandeliers that scatter light like diamonds across the grand hall. And when the clock strikes the fateful hour, you'll flee with her into the embrace of a future unwritten, where every step is a note in the symphony of her destiny. So, my dear listeners, as you settle into the comfort of your bed, let the worries of the day melt away. Allow the softness of your sheets to enfold you, and let my voice be the thread that guides you through the tapestry of tonight's story. With each word, we'll drift further into the realm of calm, our senses attuned only to the here and now, where the only task is to listen and to let sleep come as it may. Welcome to Soothing Moonlight. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey to relaxation and slumber. Now, let the story of Cinderella, reimagined under the glow of the moon, begin. Chapter 1: The Hearth of Dreams. In the heart of a kingdom, wrapped in the velveteen cloak of twilight, there dwelled a maiden whose grace was whispered by the winds, and whose beauty was the secret joy of the wildflowers. This maiden, known by the hearth's name as Cinderella, lived in the shadow of her past, a time when laughter filled the corridors, and love was the very mortar of the homestead walls. Her father, a kind merchant of gentle spirit, had once filled their home with wonders from across the seas, the scent of distant spices lingering in the air long after his tales had been told. But upon his untimely departure from this world, Cinderella's life unfurled into a tapestry of sorrow, woven by the hands of her cold-hearted stepmother and her two stepsisters, whose envy and scorn were as sharp as thorns on a rose. Yet, amidst the ashes and the toil, Cinderella's heart remained untarnished, a treasure chest of dreams unspoiled by the harshness of her days. Each morning, as the sun stretched its golden fingers through the cracks of her modest chamber, she rose with a resilience that was the quiet rebellion of a caged songbird. Her chores were many, for the stepmother believed idle hands were the playthings of discontent, and so she burdened Cinderella with the weight of countless tasks. The floors to be scrubbed until they mirrored the heavens, the linens to be washed until they rivaled the clouds, and the meals to be cooked with enough fervor to please an emperor. Cinderella worked from the whisper of dawn until the stars claimed their dominion once more, her only respite in the brief moments when she could escape to the garden. Here, amid the foxgloves and the hollyhocks, she would close her eyes and listen to the stories the breeze would tell, the tales of far-off lands, gallant strangers, and adventures that beckoned with the promise of freedom. In the evenings, when the house lay silent, save for the creaks of its aging bones, Cinderella would sit by the hearth. The cinders, glowing like the remnants of a phoenix's flame, became her companions, the sparks her confidants. She would speak her dreams into the embers, each one a silent prayer for a life less ordinary, for a chance to dance upon the grand stage of the world beyond her reach. Her stepfamily draped themselves in the finest silks and satins, jewels at their throats like stars plucked from the sky. But Cinderella's beauty needed no adornment. It was a beauty born of kindness, sculpted by the gentle hands of empathy, and it shone through the soot and the grime that marked her days. On the eve of the prince's grand ball, an event spoken of with bated breath and gleaming eyes, Cinderella's heart swelled with a longing she could not name. The stepsisters primped and preened, visions of grandeur spinning in their minds as they imagined the prince's gaze falling upon them. The stepmother, ever the crafty spider at the center of her web, wove dreams of power and influence, her ambition as boundless as the ocean. Cinderella watched from the shadows, her own dreams fluttering like moths against the reality of her confinement. Yet, as the stars blinked awake one by one, a serenity settled upon her. For in her heart, she knew that dreams were the whispers of the soul, and hers sang a song of hope that no darkness could quell. It was on this night, under the watchful gaze of the constellations that had silently witnessed her toil, that magic stirred in the realm of possibility. The air shimmered, the very fabric of reality thinning, as a presence both ancient and tender stepped through the veil. The fairy godmother, a being woven from the threads of belief and the strands of the unseen, regarded Cinderella with eyes that held the depth of the cosmos. She was the guardian of lost wishes and unspoken yearnings, called forth by the purity of Cinderella's unyielding spirit. With a smile that held the warmth of 1,000 sunlit days, the fairy godmother extended her hand, a wand clutched within her fingers, alight with the glow of unbridled potential. In the dance of the flames, she saw Cinderella's worth, her essence, her truth. And with a love as boundless as the sky itself, she whispered the incantation of transformation. The hearth's humble cinders leaped into the air, swirling around Cinderella in a vortex of light and shadow. Tattered rags blossomed into a gown of ethereal splendor, a tapestry of moonbeams and woven starlight, the hue of midnight and the luster of dreams made manifest. Glass slippers, delicate as the promises of dawn, adorned her feet, while her hair, once dulled by the ash, unfurled like a river of molten chocolate, crowned with a diadem of dewdrops, each one a testament to her inner royalty. The pumpkin in the garden convulsed and grew, its skin splitting and reshaping as it birthed a carriage of gilded beauty fit for the daughter of the stars. Mice, once humble creatures of the earth, rose on their hind legs, transformed by the wand's grace into noble steeds, their fur glistening like the velvet night. The fairy godmother's voice, soft yet imbued with the strength of ancient magic, broke the stillness of the night. Remember, dear Cinderella, this magic is a gift of the heart, a boon granted by the belief in one's dreams. It will last until the stroke of midnight. Revel in the dance, embrace the night, and let your heart be light. Cinderella, her eyes wide with wonder, and her soul alight with a joy she had never known, stepped into the embrace of her new destiny. Her every movement a silent hymn to the possibility that danced in her heart. The carriage awaited, a vessel to carry her to the destiny that the night had promised. And as the fairy godmother faded into the whispers of the night, Cinderella's journey began, a path laid out in the glow of the moon's tender gaze. Chapter 2, The Moonlit Transformation. The carriage wheels whispered over the cobblestones, carrying Cinderella away from the life of ashes she had known. She peered through the window, her eyes reflecting the opulent moon that hung like a guardian in the night sky. With each turn of the wheel, the walls that had confined her seemed to crumble and fade into the distance, leaving behind only the boundless horizon of the stars. Inside the velvet-lined carriage, Cinderella's heart danced a waltz of its own. Her hands, no longer marked by the day's labor, lay folded neatly in her lap, encased in gloves woven from the silence of the night. Her gown, a masterpiece of moonlight and dreams, cascaded around her, the fabric alive with a soft glow that seemed to hum with the whispers of the forest and the song of the nightingale. As the carriage emerged from the woods and into the open, the castle's silhouette came into view. It stood majestic, a testament to the timelessness of stone and the aspirations of those who reach for the divine. Towers reached for the heavens, windows shimmered like jewels set into the earth, and banners caught the wind in a silent symphony of color and pride. Cinderella's breath caught in her throat as the realization dawned upon her. She was bound for the prince's ball, an event spoken of in hushed tones and eager sighs across the kingdom. The prince, a man of both lore and mystery, was said to possess a charm that swayed the mightiest of wills and a kindness that warmed the coldest of winters. Yet, it was not the allure of the prince that quickened her pulse. It was the freedom that this night promised. A freedom that was as intoxicating as the fragrance of the midnight roses that bloomed only under the caress of the moon. As the carriage drew nearer, the music of the royal ball floated on the breeze, a prelude to the enchantment that awaited. The castle gates opened as if by magic, and the path that led to the heart of the festivities beckoned her forward. The carriage slowed to a halt, and the door swung open, revealing the marble steps dusted with petals and lined with golden lanterns, flickering like fireflies caught in an eternal dusk. With a breath that was both a farewell to her past and a greeting to her future, Cinderella stepped out. Her glass slippers, delicate and pure, touched the ground, sending ripples through the air, the very earth acknowledging the gravity of the moment. She ascended the steps, each one bringing her closer to a destiny that had been whispered in her dreams since she was a child. The grand doors of the ballroom opened before her, revealing a scene that was the embodiment of every tale of wonder she had ever heard. Nobles and ladies, adorned in their finery, spun in an intricate dance that was both art and celebration. Chandeliers hung like constellations above, their light cascading down in a gentle rain of luminescence. Cinderella entered, and the ballroom seemed to inhale, the dancers pausing, the conversation stilling. She stood poised on the threshold, her presence, an unspoken sonnet. The prince, from across the sea of guests, turned, his gaze drawn by the serenity that enveloped her. Their eyes met, and in that gaze lay the uncharted cosmos, the silent understanding between two souls that the tapestry of life had been waiting to weave together. He approached, his hand extended, a silent invitation to join him in the dance of the fated and the free. Cinderella, with the grace of the dawn, placed her hand in his, and they stepped onto the dance floor. The music swelled, a crescendo that lifted the spirits and commanded the stars to bear witness. They danced, prince and maiden, moonlight and dreamer. Their movements were poetry, their silence a language that spoke of the unity of two hearts. The ballroom faded away. The observers became shadows. And for Cinderella, the world was reduced to the man who led her in the waltz, to the hope that glimmered like a promise in his eyes. As the night unfolded around them, Cinderella lost herself in the magic of the moment, in the rare joy that bloomed like the rarest of flowers in her heart. With each turn, with each step, she wove her story into the fabric of the night, a story that spoke of the strength of kindness, the power of dreams, and the boundless beauty of a soul set free. Yet, as the hands of the clock edged towards the witching hour, a sliver of reality beckoned her back. The magic that clothed her, that brought her to this moment of wonder, was a fleeting gift, and midnight loomed with the certainty of an end to the enchantment. Chapter 3: The Enchanted Evening. The royal ballroom, awash with the glow of 1,000 candles and the laughter of the court, embraced Cinderella and the prince in its golden warmth. They moved through the sea of dancers, a pair among pairs, yet set apart, as if in a world of their own creation. Each note of music seemed composed solely for them, a serenade to the beauty of an unexpected connection. Cinderella, in her gown that whispered secrets of the night, found herself lost in the prince's eyes, pools of earnest sincerity that promised safety and understanding. As they danced, whispers fluttered through the crowd like curious sparrows, each noble and lady questioning the identity of the maiden who had captured the prince's attention so thoroughly. The prince led Cinderella through the figures of the dance with a tender sureness, his touch light upon her waist, his hand a gentle weight in hers. With every measure, Cinderella felt as though she were truly stepping into the skin of someone new, someone seen and recognized, not for the cinders she slept among, but for the dreams she held close. Around them, the ballroom was alive with the splendor of the kingdom. Courtiers in jackets bedecked with threads of silver and gold spun their partners under the glow of the chandeliers. Gowns of silk and satin, in every hue that graced the sky at sunrise and sunset, fanned out like the petals of the summer's most vibrant blooms. Laughter tinkled in the air, light and carefree, and the scent of roses and lilies from the palace gardens floated through the open windows, mingling with the perfume of nobility. As the night wore on, Cinderella and the prince found moments of quiet communion away from the throng. In alcoves framed by velvet drapes, they shared whispers and smiles, the prince hanging on Cinderella's every word, as though it were a treasure to be kept close. They spoke of the stars, of music, of the simple pleasures that life offered to those willing to seek them out. Each moment that passed wove Cinderella's heart closer to the prince's, a tapestry of affection that was both unexpected and as natural as the evening slipping into night. She saw the surprise in his eyes, a reflection of her own wonder, at the ease with which they connected, as if two pieces of the same puzzle finding their place in a larger picture. But as the clock's hands crept toward the inevitable hour, Cinderella felt the weight of time upon her. The enchantment that had brought her here was not of this world, and its tenure was slipping away like sand through her fingers. She clung to the present, to the prince's warm hand, to the laughter and the music, wishing she could stretch the night into eternity. The final dance was announced, a waltz that promised to be the crowning jewel of the evening. Cinderella hesitated, fear tangling with desire, the knowledge of the fairy godmother's warning echoing in her mind. Yet the pull of the prince's gaze, the silent plea for one last dance, was a call she could not deny. As they took their place once more on the dance floor, the orchestra swelled into a melody that seemed to hold the whispers of the woods, the sighs of the sea, and the very breath of the earth within its notes. Cinderella and the prince moved as one, a dance that was a goodbye, a thank you, and a memory to be cherished all at once. Then, as the final notes lingered in the air, the clock began to chime the hour. Cinderella's heart lurched. It was the sound of magic unraveling, of reality rushing in to reclaim its space. She tore herself from the prince's arms, her only thought to escape before the spell broke completely, before her gown turned to rags and her carriage to a pumpkin in the eyes of the entire kingdom. With a swiftness born of desperation, Cinderella fled, her feet barely touching the marble floors as she hastened toward the grand entrance. The prince called after her, his voice laced with confusion and concern, but she could not turn back. Not now, when midnight's toll heralded the end of the enchantment. As she reached the palace steps, one of her glass slippers, a slipper as delicate as the dreams that had carried her this far, slipped from her foot. There was no time to retrieve it, no time for anything but the pressing need to vanish into the night from whence she came. Cinderella raced through the palace gates, the last chime of midnight ringing in her ears. The magic dissolved around her, the night air cold against her skin as her gown faded into the soft, familiar fabric of her own dress. Her carriage, once a marvel of enchantment, crumbled back into the pumpkin that lay abandoned on the palace road. Breathless and alone, Cinderella found herself once more the Maiden of Cinders, her night at the ball a memory as fragile as the wings of a butterfly. She stumbled through the darkness, the sounds of the ball a distant melody, a lament for the magic that was no more. Yet, even as tears pricked her eyes, Cinderella clutched the memory of the evening to her chest. For a few precious hours, she had danced. She had been seen. She had been loved. And no chime of midnight could steal that truth from her. Chapter 4. The Flight at Midnight. As the final chime of midnight reverberated through the palace, Cinderella's flight wove her back into the tapestry of her former life. The corridors of the castle, once alive with the warmth of the ball, now seemed to stretch endlessly, their walls echoing with the ghost of celebrations past. The air around her turned brisk, a stark reminder of the magic that had slipped away like shadows at dawn. She descended the grand staircase in haste, her breath coming in short gasps. The echo of her lone glass slipper, a fragile keepsake of a night that would forever live in her heart, left behind as the only testament to her presence. The palace guards, stationed at their posts, cast her only cursory glances, seeing not the maiden who had enraptured their prince, but a mere wisp of a girl, a stranger to their gilded halls. Outside, the gardens that had greeted her arrival with enchanting perfumes and whispers of night blooms now stood silent and indifferent. Cinderella's footsteps were muffled by the soft earth as she fled, her silhouette a fleeting shadow under the moon's sympathetic gaze. The world beyond the palace gates was unchanged, oblivious to the transformation that had unfolded within its sovereign walls. Cinderella ran, the stones of the village roads familiar and unforgiving beneath her sole remaining slipper. Houses slept, their windows dark, their inhabitants dreaming, unaware of the fairy tale that had brushed so closely against their slumbers. Reaching the confines of her stepmother's estate, Cinderella's pace slowed, her lungs aching, her body weary from the night's exhilaration and escape. She stole through the garden, the vines and flowers that had once danced under the fairy godmother's touch now lay still, their magic spent. The kitchen door greeted her like an old friend, its creak a comforting sound in the stillness of the night. Cinderella slipped inside, her once magnificent gown now nothing more than the plain servant's frock she had donned countless times before. She stood there for a moment, the quiet of the house wrapping around her like a shawl, the embers of the hearth still glowing faintly, as if to welcome her back to the reality she had known. In the solitude of the kitchen, Cinderella allowed herself a moment to mourn the slipper's twin, left behind as a solitary witness to her enchantment. Yet, as her fingers traced the contours of the one that remained, a smile found its way through her tears. This glass slipper was proof that the magic had been real, that for a brief, shining moment, she had been seen, had been cherished, had been loved. Exhaustion tugged at her limbs, and Cinderella knew she must find solace in her small attic room before the dawn heralded her stepfamily's awakening. She crept through the silent house, each step a whispered goodbye to the evening that had changed her, each breath a promise to hold onto the hope it had birthed within her. In the sanctuary of her room, the walls bare, but for the sketches of her dreams, Cinderella closed the door on the world. She removed the solitary slipper, placing it gently on her modest dresser, a relic of a night that had offered her a glimpse into a world of possibility, a reminder that even in the cinders, there could be found the spark of wonders yet to come. As she lay in her bed, the softness of her pillow a balm to her swirling thoughts, Cinderella dared to close her eyes. The memories of the evening cascaded through her mind, a cascade of laughter, music, and the touch of a hand that had held hers with such tender care. The prince, a man who had stepped out of the pages of a storybook and into her heart, filled her dreams. In the quiet of her chamber, with the moon standing vigil, Cinderella surrendered to sleep, her spirit dancing still in the arms of her prince, her soul aglow with the remnants of her moonlit waltz. Chapter 5. Ever After's Dawn. As the blush of dawn crept over the horizon, it found Cinderella already awake, the events of the ball replaying in her mind like a cherished melody. She clutched the remaining glass slipper to her chest, a tangible reminder of the magic that had transformed her life, if only for an evening. The slipper was her secret, a shard of her truth amid the ashes. Her stepmother and stepsisters awoke to the new day, with none of Cinderella's quiet contemplation. They bustled about, clamoring over one another with exaggerated tales of the prince's ball. They spoke of the mysterious maiden who had appeared from nowhere, capturing the attention of all, especially the prince. They speculated with ill-concealed jealousy, questioning the identity of this unknown beauty who had vanished as swiftly as she had appeared. Cinderella listened, her expression betraying none of the storm of emotion that raged within her. She served them their breakfast and tended to their demands, each menial task a stark contrast to the enchantment she had experienced in the prince's arms. Meanwhile, in the heart of the kingdom, the prince set into motion his quest to find the owner of the glass slipper. His determination was as unyielding as the mountains that guarded the kingdom's borders. The slipper, so small and delicate in his strong hands, was his only clue to finding the maiden who had stolen his heart with her grace and kindness. As the prince's decree went forth, commanding that all maidens in the kingdom should try on the glass slipper, a ripple of excitement stirred through the land. From the furthest villages to the houses within the city's heart, the news spread, carrying with it a breath of hope, a whisper of possibility. Cinderella's stepmother received the news with calculating interest, seeing it as an opportunity to further secure her own family's fortunes. She locked the glass slipper away, a treasure to be hoarded until the time was right, unaware that its true match lay hidden within her very household. The days passed, each one bringing the prince closer in his search. Noble and commoner alike tried on the slipper, but none could claim it. The kingdom watched with bated breath, wondering if the prince would ever find the one whom the slipper fit. At last, the prince's journey brought him to Cinderella's home. Her heart raced as the royal carriage approached, the royal crest gleaming in the sunlight. The stepsisters preened and primped, each determined to force their foot into the delicate shoe. One by one, they tried, and one by one, they failed. The stepmother, her eyes narrow with frustration, insisted the prince leave, declaring there were no more maidens in the house. But as the prince turned to go, a soft voice stopped him. It was Cinderella, her tone steady, her gaze unwavering. "May I try the slipper?" Her stepmother scoffed. Her stepsisters laughed. But the prince, looking into Cinderella's eyes, saw a flicker of recognition, a glimmer of the night's magic reflected back at him. He nodded, and as Cinderella slipped her foot into the glass slipper, it fit perfectly, as though it had been made for her and her alone. The room fell into stunned silence. The prince knelt before Cinderella, taking her hand in his. He looked into her eyes, and in them he found not only the maiden from the ball, but a kindred spirit, a woman of depth and strength, who had walked through the embers and emerged aglow with an inner fire. The stepmother's protests were but a distant echo as the prince and Cinderella stood, their hearts speaking the silent language of souls reunited. The kingdom rejoiced, for the mystery of the glass slipper was solved, and the prince had found his true match. In the days that followed, the kingdom prepared for a celebration, unlike any it had seen before. Banners were raised, flowers were strewn, and the air itself seemed to sing with the joy of the upcoming union. Cinderella and the prince stood together on the threshold of a new beginning. They shared quiet conversations, walks through the palace gardens, and moments of laughter that sparkled like the sunlight on the surface of the palace fountains. They were two halves of a whole, their love the bridge between their worlds, strong and true. The wedding day arrived, a tapestry of love and promise. Cinderella, adorned in a gown that rivaled the dawn for its beauty, walked toward her future. The prince, his eyes alight with love, met her before the altar. They exchanged vows beneath the arches of the palace chapel, the stained glass windows casting a kaleidoscope of color upon the congregation. As they were pronounced husband and wife, the bells rang out, their peals a chorus of triumph for love's victory. The kingdom celebrated, the air filled with the scent of roses and the sound of music, as Cinderella and her prince danced once more, not as strangers meeting in the night, but as partners bound by love, ready to face the world together. Chapter 6. A New Dawn. The kingdom awoke to a new era under the gentle rule of Cinderella and her prince. The days of grand balls and magical nights melded into the tapestry of the kingdom's history, stories to be told and retold with each passing generation. As queen, Cinderella's grace and compassion touched the lives of all her subjects. The same hands that had once known the harshness of work now extended in generosity and kindness, ensuring that no citizen of the kingdom would ever feel the shadows of neglect or the cold sting of want. Together, the royal couple walked the halls of the palace, their footsteps a testament to the journey they had taken from the moment of a shared dance to the shared reign over a land abounding in hope. The prince, ever enamored with his queen, stood by her side, his strength interwoven with her gentleness, a union that promised stability and love. In the quiet moments, away from the eyes of the court and the responsibilities of the crown, Cinderella would often venture to the palace gardens. There, amidst the roses that bloomed year-round, she found solace and reflection. She thought of her days by the hearth, of the dreams whispered into the night, and of the fairy godmother who had seen the worth within her. She often walked these paths with the prince, their conversations a blend of memories and aspirations. They spoke of the kingdom, of the world beyond their borders, and of the family they hoped to raise within the loving walls of their home, a family that would know the value of kindness, the wealth of compassion, and the power of a dream nurtured in the heart. Cinderella's story, a beacon of hope, became the legacy she crafted each day, a legacy not of magic and glass slippers, but of unwavering strength, the courage to change one's stars, and the enduring power of love. As the sun set on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the land, Cinderella and her prince stood hand in hand, their silhouettes a portrait of peace. The night sky, adorned with the twinkling of stars, was a canvas of dreams fulfilled, a promise that every soul under their rule could reach for the stars and find their own path to happiness. And so, as the stars shone bright, Cinderella's tale was no longer just a story, but a living, breathing part of the world. An inspiration that whispered through the leaves and glimmered in the water. A reminder that within every heart lies the potential for a fairy tale, waiting only for the courage to set it free.